Hello and a very good evening. Thanks for joining in this special broadcast on News the Truth. It's a live broadcast and we're reporting to you from Kolkata. Now to begin with, I am not a movie buff. Very few movies that I've seen in my life, but incidentally, I had a moment of recollection this afternoon. And the moment of recollection happened because of a reason. There are a couple of movies, and I'll name them. If you have watched those movies, you can raise your hand, put your hand on your heart, and you can be in agreement with me. For example, Salam Namaste. For example, Okay Janu. For example, Sud Desi Romance. Or for that matter, Pyar Ka Panchnama. Or for that matter, Cocktail. Or Ashiki 2. Now these are all Bollywood blockbusters. You must have seen them. I have seen them too. But there is one thing common with all these movies. We will come to that little later. But today, I spend this evening empathizing with the script writers of all these movies. I have my deepest of sympathies. I have deepest of sympathies for all these script writers of all these movies. Because in today's day and time, if they had to write the same movie and if they intend not to offend Chief Minister Dhami or Uttarakhand as a state, they will have to add one particular scene in their script. And that scene is visiting the office of a register. Because all these movies talk about live-in relationship. While live-in relationship under the new UCC law of Uttarakhand state is not a crime, but it has also mandated that you register your live-in relationship, which means if should Desi romance had to be made today, and if it doesn't want to offend Uttarakhand Chief Minister and Uttarakhand state, then they have to name it should Desi register romance. I repeat, should Desi register romance. You have to register your romance. The UCC Bill has been tabled in the Uttarakhand Assembly, and this is part of the draft. And this focuses only and only on living relationship. Why is it important to talk about this very aspect of the UCC Bill, which has been brought by Uttarakhand government? Because this might set a right or a wrong example for the rest of the states to follow. Who do you want to love? Who do you want to live with is also under the scrutiny of the state government of Uttarakhand. Why? Because Uttarakhand government, under the UCC law for living relationship, has made it necessary, and it states, point number one, it shall be obligatory for partners to a living relationship within the state, whether they are residents of Uttarakhand or not, to submit a statement of living relationship under subsection 1 of section 381 to the register within whose jurisdiction they are living. Now please tell me, if I am in a living relationship and if I have to register with the register to make it legal as per the law of Uttarakhand land, how is that different from Marriage Act? How is that different from Marriage Act? We do not support, I personally do not support a woman having to wear sindoor or a Mangal Sutra as a sign of marriage. That should be the independent choice of a woman, because there is no such sign for a man to wear on his body to prove that he is married. Now, when you are in a living relationship, if a woman decides to wear Mangal Sutra or Sindoor, will you allow that woman or not if it's subject to choice? How is live-in relationship different from marriage? And are you trying to create two parallel laws? One is Marriage Act and one is Live-in Relationship Act. You find this funny? Wait, it's a long list. You would have a lot of reasons to laugh as we go ahead with the flow of this bill. The second point, it says any resident of Uttarakhand staying in a live-in relationship outside the territory of the state may submit a statement of live-in relationship to the register within whose jurisdiction such residence resides. So, say for an example, if a man or a woman from Uttarakhand decides to engage in a live-in relationship with a partner in Kolkata, then that person will have to visit a registrar's office in Kolkata to inform the registrar that he or she is in a live-in relationship here in Kolkata, not in Uttarakhand. And what would Uttarakhand government do with that piece of information if it doesn't, if it's not available with them? Will they send their police to Kolkata? Uttarakhand police will then come to Kolkata to verify. What is the crime rate in Uttarakhand? सारा क्राइम आपने सॉल्व कर दिया, सारा केसेस आपने सॉल्व कर दिया, इसीलिए आपके पुलिस के पास इतना समय आज हाथ में है कि उत्तराखंड से उड़ के आ जाएंगे कलकत्ता में ये देखने के लिए कि उत्तराखंडी या उत्तराखंड की कोई रेसिडेंट किसके साथ रह रहा है कलकत्ता में, मुंबई में, दिल्ली में, बिहार में, पटना में, कहाँ पे आप भेजेंगे पुलिस देखने के लिए, वेरीफाई करने के लिए? इज इट पॉसिबल? एंड व्हाई? If UCC of Uttarakhand is binding for the people of Uttarakhand and restricted on the land of Uttarakhand, how can that transgress on the land of another state? Bihar has not passed UCC as yet. West Bengal hasn't passed UCC as yet. Your live-in relationship law, how is it binding on the law of West Bengal land? So somebody who is born and raised in Uttarakhand, a citizen of Uttarakhand, if decides to have a relationship, live-in relationship with somebody in Kolkata, will have to inform the local police and the local register, which is further subject to verification and approval. Wah bhai wah. Point number 3. It says, children of a live-in relationship. Any child of a live-in relationship shall be legitimate child of the couple. Now this I personally would appreciate, because if you are trying to break away from the social stigma, and what do you mean by illegitimate child? Why would a child be called an illegitimate child when the child before birth has no right on the control, or have no control on the womb where the child is growing? So the child before birth cannot decide whether he or she is legitimate or illegitimate, and after birth you suddenly call the child illegitimate. That is absolutely not acceptable. Two adults have decided to have a child or had a consensual relationship, and a child is born out of wedlock, and nobody has a right to call the child illegitimate. So I really appreciate this. But the question to Uttarakhand government is, will this also be binding on schools, on colleges, inside the classroom? Will the child be ensured that is not subjected to any uncomfortable question, and the child doesn't become another victim of social stigma? Because we are trying to break the social stigmas. This is 21st century. Please understand. And living relationship is a choice over marriage. Every individual has a choice and a right to choice. Now, when you say that live-in relationship, when you say the live-in relationship has to be registered, very good. You register that. You're giving legal sanctity to somebody's relationship. Will you also send a notification? Will you send a government notice to culture kakus, culture uncles, to all these societies that they cannot refuse unmarried couple? This is not an isolated case when some couple in Mumbai had claimed on social media that they were denied stay in a residential housing complex because they were unmarried. Will this legal sanctity that you are aiming to give to live-in relationship will also be binding on the society? Nobody, no landlord will be allowed to refuse tenancy to a couple who who wants to stay in a live-in relationship after registering with the Uttarakhand government. Will this be binding on the people of Uttarakhand, the society of Uttarakhand equally? Will you punish anyone who refuses a couple to stay within the periphery of a residential complex because the couple is not married and into a living relationship, and somebody on grounds of self-decided moral standards have decided that the couple would not be given permission, would be denied permission there? There lies an ambiguity. So when you draft a bill, please make it amply clear as whether you are simply trying to invade into my bedroom or you are also trying to invade the society in an all-pervasive manner with the moral lesson and a social lesson that live-in relationship couples cannot be discriminated. Say that. Who is stopping you? You haven't, and thus we are questioning. You haven't as yet, thus we are questioning. Now, the bill also says when live-in relationship not to be registered, and out of all the points, it says where the partners are within the degrees of prohibited relationship as defined under clause or subsection 1 of section 3, provided that the prohibitions will not apply to persons whose customs and usage permit to relationship if it were a marriage, provided further that such customs and usage are not against the public policy and morality. Public policy and you hear yourself. Public policy and morality. Who decides this moral standard? Tomorrow somebody can come and say holding hands and walking on the street is unacceptable by my moral standard. Will that be acceptable? What is the standard morality? Have you defined that? What is the standard acceptable morality for Uttarakhand government? Have you debated upon that? Have you deliberated that? You're leaving a couple to the vulnerability of a society that can use its own jurisprudence in accordance to their education, in accordance to their economic background, social strata, knowledge, exposure to the world, and personal wisdom to decide what will be the moral standard, to decide as what yardstick would be applied on a couple. Live-in relationship could also have been purely love. And you want to bring in so much of regulations in love. Fair enough. But what are the larger contours that has not been explained by you as yet? Now, there is another clause. When will the register not register, and while deciding, while scrutinizing, can decide not to sanction that live-in relationship? whether the consent of one of the partners was obtained by force, coercion, undue influence, misrepresentation, or fraud as to any material fact or circumstance concerning the other partner, including her or his identity, including his or her identity, and also about material fact or circumstances. I'll give you an example. Say suppose I'm in love with somebody XYZ and I decide to go ahead and live with XYZ. Now my relationship is not approved by by my family. XYZ's family has also not approved our relationship. So both of us as adults who are both above 21 years of age decide for ourselves to live together under one roof and give it a name, that is live in relationship. I am a man, XYZ is a woman. Now XYZ's family decides, because they have not approved our relationship, they go ahead and file a complaint against me that this man, that's Tamal, has forcibly taken our daughter XYZ, eloped with her and forced her, coerced her to stay with him. Now you have a police complaint. So you have a material evidence. You have a material evidence which might just come in the way of both of our statements before the register that look, both of us are madly in love with each other and we want to live together. The register would then verify our statements. I'll come to the scrutiny part later. But now imagine if there is a police complaint against me, and even if XYZ decides to stand against the police complaint, you might consider the police complaint sacrosanct and decide to reject this live-in relationship. Decide to reject registration of this live-in relationship. How on earth can you do that? How on earth can you do that? Your law says that if the boy and the girl are under the age of 21, then they would require consent of guardian or parents. I now say, I appreciate that. I appreciate that because you have also increased the marriage age for women from 18 to 21, and the country as a whole has also passed a law that marriageable age should be 21 and above. Fantastic. Appreciate that. You need the consent of the parents, go get the consent of the parents. But if we are above the age of 21, what material evidence are you talking about that can come in the way of the statements of both individuals who are adults and who claim, who swear by love for each other? Point number 2 of the same clause. Including his or her identity, which means same-sex relationship. Now, same-sex relationship in our country is almost like, and I know many would take offense of me saying it, but those who understand what they are going through, the social stigma and the other challenges they are going through, they might just understand what I am coming from. It is like the packet of a cigarette which comes with a statutory warning that smoking kills. But sale of a cigarette is legal. Cigarettes are not banned. Cigarettes are not banned. But it comes with a statutory warning, smoking kills. Similarly, in our country, same-sex homosexuality has been decriminalized, but they have not been given the right to get married. So now their personal identity, whether you're a man staying with another man and whether the statements given by two is contradictory to their gender and personal identity can or will, most definitely will, come in the way of live-in relationship of two adult individuals because their fault is they belong to the same sex. Why? Why do you want to do that? Under the age of 21, I understand, even though there is a question mark. Under the age of 21, from 18 to 21, which is 18, 19, 20, 3 years, you have all the right to cast your vote. That too is a subject to debate. Where you're calling for parents and families' intervention into your personal space, will the parents and the family also decide until you turn 21 as who you should be voting for? Will you allow that? Because at the age of 18, you are considered to be an adult. You are expected to take decisions on your own for your life. But two, people belonging to same sex will henceforth will not have the freedom. Forget marriage, to be in a live-in relationship in Uttarakhand. Just imagine the predicament. Two guys or two girls decide to be under the same roof. Forget whether they are in a live-in relationship or whether they are into any kind of a sexual relationship. Two boys, two girls, two men, two women have just decided to live together. And you are inviting society's scrutiny. The landlord might just walk into your room to check whether you are having sex or not. How is that allowed? And how is that different from moral policing? If your objective is to bring down crimes against women, we must appreciate that. If your objective is that you want to bring down cases of crimes of somebody becoming a victim of an imposter and so on and henceforth, understandable. But please tell me, has our country recognized marital rape as rape? That is not a crime. That is not a crime. A woman tomorrow complains, even after being married, that my husband had been raping me. That will not be considered as a crime because there is no law. It's an exception. What has UCC in Uttarakhand done for that? What has UCC in Uttarakhand done for that? Marital rape is not a rape. It's not a crime. And with UCC, you are intending to bring down crimes against women. So a married woman is a lesser woman and has no right to complain about sexual harassment if the complaint is against her own husband. Wah bhai wah. Okay, now let's come to the procedure for registration. You thought it's very simple. You'll go give your statement and your live-in relationship would be registered. Hold on. सुन लीजिए, क्रोनोलॉजी समझ लीजिए, क्रोनोलॉजी सुन लीजिए, थोड़ा धैर्य रखिए, समझ लीजिए, चिल्लाइए मत, बैठ जाइए, सुन लीजिए. Partners in a live-in relationship or persons intending to enter into a live-in relationship shall submit a statement of live-in relationship to the register concerned in such format and in such manner as may be prescribed. The register shall examine the contents of the statement of live-in relationship so submitted and satisfy himself by conducting a summary inquiry that the live-in relationship is not of such a kind as is mentioned under section 380. It doesn't come under any prohibitory laws, or it doesn't come under any objectionable law, or doesn't violate morality, or what it said, public policy. In conducting summary, the register may summon partners, persons, or any other person for verification in the prescribed manner, and require the persons, partners to supply additional information or evidence. Which means, tomorrow, if I am from Uttarakhand, if I am in Uttarakhand and if I decide to get into a live-in relationship, I have to first inform my friends, take them into confidence. Take them into confidence. It is like those credit card forms. You need a guarantor. You need a guarantor. Or those job application forms where you need to name people as referrals with who your verification can be done. So your Aadhaar card is not enough. Your voter ID card is not enough. Your PAN card is not enough. You as an individual, you are not enough. For verification, in order to get into a live-in relationship, you also need the approval of your friends. अगर कोई दोस्त आपके लाइफ में ना हो तो आप सड़क से किसी का हाथ पकड़ के लेके आइए, बोल दीजिएगा कि सर आपका फोन नंबर मैं दे रहा हूं, कोई अगर फोन करे तो बोल दीजिएगा हाँ मैं तमाल को जानता हूं, वो लिव इन रिलेशनशिप में जा रहा है, बहुत नेक बंदा है. उसके बाद आप ढूंढते रहो उस बंदे को. And when you are taking information, additional information from XYZ, from neighbors, falana dhinkana, if the live-in relationship goes haywire, if the relationship doesn't work out, will you also penalize those people who have given their statements? बताइए. So you have an Aadhaar card as your proof, but please with that carry with you a couple of names. Inform your friends. That's very important. Inform your friends. You can't hide your relationship anymore, because so far the concept was live-in relationship meant freedom. Freedom from lot of scrutiny. Yes, lot of things have happened wrong in live-in relationship, but how can exceptions become example? Should bad marriages then become examples of bad marriages and marriages not working out at all? Bad marriages or divorce should then become the example to get myself motivated not to get married at all. Live-in relationship meant to many freedom. People who have been asking for acknowledgement, that is LGBTQ community. People whose relationships have not been accepted for whatever reason, have thought living in outside their homes, outside their own city, depending on each other alone, can also be a happy life. Could be a casual life. These days, a lot of couples decide not to have children, not to have a child. I wonder tomorrow there would be a law making it obligatory for couples to have children, because we are slowly and slowly losing our right to choice. If live-in relationships so far had been a choice, your choice is now subject to scrutiny, subject to verification, subject to approval, and subject to confirmation, certification by the government. Point number 3. The register, upon verification and upon his or her own satisfaction, will then issue registration certificate to the couple. But if the registrar is not satisfied, the registrar can also refuse to register such statement and not give certificate to live-in relationship. That's exactly what is written. Refuse to register such statement, in which case the registrar shall inform the partner and persons of reasons in writing for such refusal. Which means the state will now have a right to deny you permission to live together and get into a live-in relationship with a partner of your choice if you do not meet with the terms and conditions. Terms and conditions of love. इतने सारे मूवी बन गए अनकंडीशनल लव के ऊपर. पहले बता देते उनको लव विथ कंडीशन, profound love, नीचे डॉट डॉट डॉट, subject to terms and conditions. And it sounds almost like mutual fund ad. This entire sheet of paper looks like mutual fund ad and mutual fund form with terms and conditions. Your relationship is subject to a risk, and the risk is called government's approval. Uttarakhand government's approval, because the government has decided to pass UCC and then decide to legalize live-in relationship. Wait. What are the duties of registrar? The registrar to who you go as a couple, mind it, heterosexual couple, very important to say, heterosexual couple, a man and a woman, when they go to the registrar's office, what is expected out of the registrar? The registrar, after receiving the application, shall forward it to the officer in charge of the local police station for record, and in case either of the partner is less than 21 years of age, shall also inform the parents and guardians. So which means, irrespective of your age, your application will then be sent to local police station. What is the guarantee that local police station won't decide to walk into your room without any warrant, without any reason, just to have a check on you? सर, मैम, आप ठीक है? आपके लिए एक गिलास पानी लेके आए. हम पुलिस है, आज ये हमारा काम है, आपका देखभाल करने के लिए आए, और कुछ नहीं. डरिए मत, डरिए मत. आपके रूम में प्रवेश कर रहे बिना आपकी अनुमति की, और आपके लिए पानी लेके आए, मिठाई लेके आए. Hold on. If the registrar comes to the conclusion that the relationship of such a kind as is mentioned under section 380, or that the contents of the statement under subsection of section 381 are incorrect or suspicious. Now the registrar is your bhagya vidhata, judge, jury. The registrar, if fears any suspicion on this live-in relationship, shall inform the officer in charge of the local police station for appropriate action. What do you mean by that? What do you mean by that? If I cannot satisfy you, and I'm above the age of 21, my partner is also above the age of 21, and for whatever reason, you as a registrar, you are not satisfied, you would inform police for appropriate action. What is that appropriate action? You will not let us stay together, even if we decide not to stay in Uttarakhand. Even if we decide not to stay in Uttarakhand. Because the first point says The first point says, remember, the first point said that anybody getting into a live-in relationship within the state, whether they are residents of Uttarakhand or not, whether they are residents of Uttarakhand or not. So even if I am not a resident of Uttarakhand and I have gone there for work and I have decided to be in a live-in relationship and I am not in a live-in relationship with another person who hails from Uttarakhand, who is a resident of Uttarakhand, and under the law of UCC of Uttarakhand had informed the police, informed the register, and the register decides no, they cannot be given the legal sanction, and we wanted to pursue our love thereafter as well and decided to let go of Uttarakhand, leave Uttarakhand and come down to Kolkata, come down to Durgapur, come down to Bombay, go down to Pune, go down to Nasik, go down to Bangalore. You will send your police after us. Even if we are not residents of Uttarakhand and we have been there staying for work and had been in a live-in relationship, as per your new UCC law or bill, I will inform the register. The register will take note of it. And if the register decides that I cannot approve this live-in relationship, the register would inform the police for appropriate action. The police would then decides rather, that two of you cannot live together, but we are deeply in love. So we are willing to sacrifice Uttarakhand, move to another state, move to another city. Will you send your Uttarakhand police after us? Why? If yes, and above everything else, Uttarakhand government has also decided, as per UCC Bill, to penalize who are in violation. For example, whoever stays in a live-in relationship for more than 1 month from the date of entering into such relationship without submitting the statement of such relationship under subsection 1 of section 381 shall be punished or on conviction by a judicial magistrate with imprisonment for a term which may extend to 3 months or with fine or extending 10,000 rupees or with both. I am failing to understand. Informing the register, is it a voluntary effort or also under pressure? If I have been in a live-in relationship, live-in relationship inside a house, and the landlord, if we are tenants, the landlord had no problem, the landlord has not informed anyone, and we have been staying there for over 3 months, or we have been staying there for 32 days. Somebody from the neighborhood decided to inform register, decided to inform police for no business of his or her. For no business of his or her. Because we as a couple are living as tenants inside the house that as a property belongs to one individual or maybe a family. And I am not being fed by the neighbors of that very house. So the neighbors and some pedestrian, some cycle wala, some auto driver or a cab driver or anybody who works nearby who knows nothing about us, how can they go ahead and complain about us? And complain to who? Complain to who? When we go ahead and give this declaration before the register, how will the register know since when we are in a live-in relationship? Have we been in a live-in relationship for 31 days or 32 days or 30 days or 25 days or 50 days or 60 days or 3 years? Do you understand the level of scrutiny you are inviting at so many levels? So the neighbor would now have a say in my personal life. If I am in Uttarakhand. Important to mention that. And similarly, the UCC law decides to penalize people for violations. And the last part before I conclude, it says if a woman gets deserted by her live-in partner, she shall be entitled to claim maintenance from her live-in partner, for which she may approach the competent court having jurisdiction over the place where they last cohabitated, and in such a case, the provisions contained in Chapter 5, Part 1 of this code shall something something. I can't read because of the print. So a woman as an individual can only be wronged, a man cannot be wronged. If a live-in relationship falls apart, it would only fall apart because of a man, not because of the woman. If a man has been subjected to mental agony, the man can't go ahead and complain or can't seek maintenance from that woman if the man decides to walk out of the relationship. This UCC law, when it becomes law, what kind of standard this will set for the rest of the country, only time would say. But this may also create a lot of problems for people living in Tier 2, Tier 3 cities and towns. I still don't understand, why do you need this? What is the reason? To monitor live-in relationship. I don't know if it's safe to say. But then, we also believe in God and goddesses, whom we call the epitome of love. And nobody has questioned their love. Nobody has ever questioned whether love was less or more because they were married or not. We have always looked up to such examples of profound love, to believe in love, to spread love, to live in love and harmony. Uttarakhand, which is also known as Dev Bhumi, might just put a lot of dilemma or put many people in dilemma. I can't answer on behalf of God. I wish even God can answer whether they would be suffering from any dilemma or not. For now, many would say, thank God, they chose live-in relationship. They chose love above Uttarakhand and UCC. They chose to stay maybe outside Uttarakhand for reasons best known to them, for reasons they're entitled to keep to themselves. There is something called right to secrecy, right to choice. Thank you for watching and good night.